Thank you so much for having me. And it's a pleasure. I'm Dr. Jaideep Malhotra. I'm currently the Director of Rainbow IVF from Agra. I have been the past president of many organizations nationally and internationally. And currently, I am the chairperson of the Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility Committee of FIGO, which is an international organization of obstetricians and gynecologists. I would also like to add here that I have come up with an app for pregnant women, which is called as iMumz, which is based on fetal origin of adult diseases and Garh Sanskar, which has won the Pradhan Mantri's Atmanirbhar app challenge and was very recently also we were on Shark Tanks and had a good pitch there. And there's a lot more, but I would say that I come from a tier two city, which is Agra, and we were the first IVF clinic of the state of Uttar Pradesh. We have produced all the first IVF babies, whether it's ICSI, TISA, and all of Uttar Pradesh. And also, our team has been responsible for producing the first IVF baby of Nepal and many more.
Wow. It's such an honor to talk with you, Dr. Jaideep.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. Moving on, Dr. Jaideep, we would like to hear from you what infertility means from your years of experience.
Zamir, I was in the terminology group of WHO, where, we fought for many, many years to include infertility is a disease, because this was one of the major problems which we had. Our couples especially were suffering because no insurance company would cover. And for more than 6 years, just to include that word disease in the definition was something which was the most difficult part. But ultimately we were very, very lucky, because at that time I was heading the Asia Pacific Initiative in Reproduction, which is an IVF organization for Asia Pacific, and was representing from there in WHO, and we were successful. Now, what is important here is that there is a definition to it, but this definition also is very, very flexible, in the sense that we say that if a couple has been trying without any protection for the past 1 year, and if they are unable to achieve a pregnancy, we say okay, they are infertile. Now the point here is that today many couples are marrying very late in life, and all these definitions cannot be universally applied to all individual couples. So a lot of this has to be individualized, which is very, very important, and that is something which we should be definitely looking at.
So you have successfully managed to include infertility as a disease in the terminology. That is such an awesome move. That brings me to the second question. So if infertility is a disease, if it's a medical condition, then why is there such a stigma attached to the word infertility?
It's so difficult to explain, the human mindsets, because we take our bodies for granted. We feel that, okay, I have eyes, I am supposed to see. If I have all the apparatus in place, I should be able to reproduce. And health is something which we have not really paid attention. Even till date, there are very little percentage of people who will actually looked at any disease, but they're still not looking at health. So now, and there is no quota in their minds or in their pockets for treatment of infertility, because they feel that, okay, if somebody's gotten married, pregnancy should happen automatically. And that is something which is a big stigma. And more importantly, I think our structure, the societal structure is such that I feel that the women bear a lot of brunt for this. And a lot of times, they don't they're not even able to say that, okay, the fault lies with the husband. They're not even able to say, okay, the marriage has not been consummated. Even when they want to come to the doctor, there's nobody to take them because, neither the families or the husband is either agreeable or has no time. Because this is something which today we are, in fact, yesterday only we had a great discussion in one of the newspaper channels, and we were discussing this, that there are now, right now, two subsets of people. There are one which, like, people are getting married late. Then once these career oriented couples, now children have no current place right now. It is something which they will keep it for the later half of their lives. And there is an other subset of people who are from the rural and the other conservative background, where the pressure is on from the day the marriage happens. And so many times I've been using this word, oh my God, like, you've been married only for 2 months and you are here in a doctor's chamber. Why? You should have had a child and then gotten married. Because it's unbelievable how these thought processes are, swinging from one pendulum side to the other. And a doctor has to deal with, and you can't really generalize them. You have to individualize these problems.
So, infertility, according to the terminology, is a couple's issue, right?
Yes.
It's a couple's issue, and as we were discussing, the women bear the major brunt of the stigma.
Yeah.
It's not really a single partner issue. It's so awesome that you have It's so awesome that you have explained it. Could you give us some examples of the kind of experiences you had to see?
Oh, every day I can tell you stories. I've made so many films. In fact, if people have their time, I have made one film, Main Banj Nahi Hu. I'm not infertile. You must see, because most of these films which I have made, they are on the stories and real-time stories which I have faced in my clinic. I'll tell you, long time back, I started IVF 25 years back. Right. And at that time, just about, let's say, about another 2 or 3 years before, I was doing endoscopic surgery. Now, all these are like a part of evolution of any infertility practitioner, because you need to know your ultrasounds, you need to know your endoscopic surgeries, and then you can graduate to an IVF specialist. So at that point of time, a couple comes to me and they come with an HSG report where both the tubes are blocked. And I just tell them that, both the tubes are blocked and you will need an endoscopic surgery, and you should prepare for it. And, the couple, along with the husband's mother, were there. They just walk out of the clinic and they say, okay, we'll come back and we'll see what can be done. And they asked me what the cost of the surgery was and how many days it will take and all those things. And they never come back on the date which was prescribed to them for, the surgery. And after about 6 months, this husband and the mother walk in with a new lady. And I said, doctor, the previous one had her tubes blocked. She was unable to have children. So I have remarried my son without even divorcing the first wife. The first wife is still there in the house. She has agreed to it, and that's it. Now, can you imagine? And there's another one I will tell you. Now, this is also in part of the film. One tall, like 6 feet 4 inches tall man, on a winter day comes. He has two ladies on both the sides, and he's, with a monkey cap, and he's holding his hands, and he's saying, doctor, this is my first wife. We've been married for like 20 years or so, and we've not been able to have a baby, and I'm like a gram pradhan. My parents have married me now to the second wife, who's a widower, has had a 6-year-old child, because she's proven fertility now, and we've not had a child for last 3 years. Now, you please save my life, because I am like a village head, and I cannot afford not to have children. I said, did you get your semen examination done? No, what is wrong with me? And you can understand what was the story, because when we did a semen examination and there were no sperms. So whether it is a problem with the male or with the female, most of the times, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, I would say like in the metros and in the educated class, people have started understanding, but still the understanding is not at the same level. It's still not at the same level, but yes, people have started acknowledging that yes, the problems can also be with the male, and also that there is a solution to it. It's not that there's not a solution, but the problem which arises is that people find it easier to remarry than to spend on infertility, because that's the treatment which where you're not giving 100% success. Now that's one of the major crux of the problem, because whenever they'll ask, will you take a guarantee if I do this treatment or if I do this surgery I will have a baby? Now how can anyone assure them that yes, 100% you will have a baby? Now these are the problems which are there, which people, we need to create awareness, we need to empower women and families to have faith, and it's a very hard task because they need to spend money. There are so many times, businesses, two brothers are working together in a family business. Now one needs to take out money for infertility treatment. I've seen families breaking down because they don't want to share that money with the other brother who needs it. So there are loads and loads of things which I have seen in my life, which have really impacted my practice and the way I practice now.
Wow, deep stories there. So infertility isn't covered by health insurance till today?
It is now, but there's a cap to it. There is a star in health insurance which covers it, but once you take that insurance, you'll have to wait for 3 years before you are able to avail it.
Wow.
But at least the beginning is there. Now this insurance is available.
Great. A glimmer of hope for many people.
And I would also like to say here that most of the medical colleges now, the government has made it mandatory to have an infertility clinic and an ART clinic in all the medical colleges. So people who can't afford, they can go to the medical college. Good facilities are available. I myself have established ART clinics in Maulana Azad Medical College, in Jawaharlal Medical College of Aligarh, in SMS Medical College of Jaipur, where even IVF treatment also costs just half from any private this thing. So what we need to understand is, yes, today we are much better off as far as facilities are available. Accessibility is also there, and plus these government organizations are making it affordable for the patients also. So they should not refrain from using them now.
Right. Well, that's a lot of information. Ma'am, could you tell us the top 3 infertility reasons for both male and female, age being one these days?
Yes, age being one. Yes, for men, I would say, the sperm counts are getting definitely lower. And a lot of these people have, low sperm counts, and even azoospermia is also quite common. And the other important aspect which is there is the functional issues, erectile dysfunctions and all. They don't come out because there's so much of these non-communicable diseases. Diabetes is there, obesity is there, the stress of and especially in this COVID period, work from home and all these night shifts and everything. So people, like younger people, are taking lesser interest in intimacy and the sexual act, and that is something which is really worrisome. And it's not only for men but also for women also, it is there. And the third important is infections. Now, a lot of these promiscuity and other things are there, and there's rampant infections which are there. And one of the most important other reason is environmental. The foods which we eat, the air which we breathe, the water which we drink, and all of them, and even these plastic bottles and all. Plus, lot of these people are on a lot of drugs, smoking, one of the biggest, and in our part of the country, tobacco chewing, pan masala, and all this younger crowd is into all kinds of drug abuse, which is there, which is really affecting their fertility. The mobile phones. Now, they just don't understand. They feel, either the peer pressure or whatever the parties, late night parties, which disturbs their circadian rhythm and, the performances and their interest in life and association. So there are many factors which are there, but these are the few which are, very, very common, and they need our urgent attention, which is the most important thing, I would say.
What about women? Age, lifestyle problem? Again?
Yes.
Right. So, ma'am, erectile dysfunction, that's a very sensitive topic for all the men because obviously it directly correlates them to their whole essence as a man. Like the men, I'm sure, go through a lot of reluctance to come to doctor with this kind of problem.
Yeah. There is a lot of reluctance for sure. And most of the times, either the men will come alone to discuss, they won't bring their wives, or will come with a friend or someone, or the wife will come and say that my husband has a problem and he keeps on telling me that you have a problem. That is why I am not able to perform. So can you please check me? So, and that happens. And what is more important here is that yes, sometimes they need privacy, and very important that it is correctable in majority of the cases. And that's something which we must ensure, because the moment they come out, like just last week, I can give you an example, a love marriage, and after 3 years of marriage, this marriage has not been consummated. Now this is this part of the world, and I'm just saying, oh, what kind of a love marriage was this? Didn't you really? So and she's saying, no, we were good children, and so on. And it was just the fear of the whole act, which actually the girl was also not allowing, and the man was too scared to actually cause pain to her. And it just needed one hour session with both of them, and they went back happy. So sometimes, the problems of erectile dysfunction can be as small as that also. But people, because they do not seek help, they suffer in silence for a long time. And that's something which I think seeking help is very, very important. But on the other hand, the lifestyle diseases like diabetes, very common, leading to erectile dysfunction, and even sometimes and those are the ones which will be a little difficult, and they need persistent management, which we should be looking in.
Right. So, infertility as a disease is solvable, curable, has a solution to a large extent, which is good news for many people. Great.
Yes.
So, Dr. Jaideep, infertility has so much negative emotions attached to the word. And a large portion of this negative connotation is fed by society expectations and by a loved one's sentiments. What would be your suggestion or advice to a couple struggling with infertility in relation to this?
See, I actually we started with that. The point is that, it is our right to procreate. But to produce children is not the only purpose of our life. I would really like to put it that way. And it's very, very important for us to understand, because it starts at a very early age. Now, as soon as a couple gets married, depending upon whatever age they get married, and the society has this expectation from them right from the first day, that within a year they will produce a child, whether they want to or whether they don't want to, whether they can afford it or they can't afford it, whether they want to plan or they don't want to plan. But every time they go out, people are asking, When is the good news coming? When is the good? Now, there is a lot of effect on the mental status of this couple. Now, we must understand that this is a absolutely private affair, and it's a decision of these two people in this relationship when they want to have it. If they are having any problem, yes, there are times when people need some support. They will come and ask for it, but we should not be pushing them, because it increases the stress level. It increases friction in the relationships in the families, because and friends, of course, if like this couple will not like to go and meet them again and again, even if they're having a problem, they don't want to divulge, and so they can't go out. Now this is something which society has to now evolve, mature, and just leave it to them. Now, the other aspect is of the families, whenever there is like infertility in any, I would say, couple in the family. Now, most of them are looking at different aspects. Some people in the family would be very happy, okay, they don't have children, so all this family inheritance is going to come to our children. The other people are looking at it, oh, they are now going to take some money out of our kitty and spend it on something which we are not even sure whether they will be successful or no. So in every possible way, there is a negative connotation on which is related with infertility, and I feel this is one of the biggest taboos or pain which anybody could go through. And that's why, and sometimes it is also self-inflicted, because when you are young, especially young girls, and I really don't blame them, but we also have to understand that men cannot bear children, so the onus lies on us. Now if I am a career woman and I am ambitious, I am competing with my husband and my colleagues on reaching to the top. Now pregnancy is something which I definitely do not want, but then there is a age till when you can have. Now everything has to be planned in that period, and we need to sacrifice some things to have some things, and those sacrifices are very small as far as the family is concerned. And that is something which I would really like to advise young couples, that please take out time to complete your families in between, which is very, very important. We give examples of Google and Apple for giving their employees $10,000-$20,000 for egg freezing so that they can have these pregnancies later on. It's not the same, because you may have the eggs frozen or the embryos frozen, but the body is not the same. Age has its impact on the outcome of pregnancy at a later date, and that's something which we must definitely look into. So things done at the right time will come out with the right kind of outcomes.
Right. So in terms of dealing with infertility, men and women respond differently. What are the chief differences that you have seen in your years of experience?
You know what? It all depends on where the fault is. I have seen most of the times, if the fault is with the woman, men are on top. The whole family is on top of her. Oh, you have a problem. Okay. But in today's days, I've also seen women wherever they find out that the problem lies with the husband, they are also very aggressive, because this suppression, oppression, and all kinds of blame game which has been happening for times immemorial to all of the women in the world. Now they find a time to come out and take it out, but this is not the way, neither of them, for any of the two, because as we said, it's a couple's problem. So let's put it this way, like sometimes it happens, like if a young girl has endometrioma, and the husband will say, if I'll tell them, okay, why don't you get a semen analysis done? No, I don't have any problem, she has a problem, doctor, please treat her first. Now what happens, I have to sit down and I have to counsel them, because now this is a disease which is recurrent disease, and you have to explain to them. Now if I take care of that disease, I'll get a very short window in which we have to achieve a pregnancy, because at that point of time, if you get a semen analysis done, and God forbid if there's something wrong with you, we lose out on this opportunity. And that's something which we have to make them understand. And but I would say not all men are bad, neither are all women bad. But sometimes, the problems are such in the families that they react in such manner, and a little bit of good counseling will bring them aligned. And once they are aligned mentally, then the physical alignment also happens.
So, do we have enough counselors to deal with infertile couples in India?
Sorry?
Do we have enough counselors to deal with infertile couples if they need extensive?
No, we don't have counselors. Unfortunately, that is one of our major drawbacks. So doctors are the ones who are counseling and who are doing procedures. Now, in our new ART Act, the bill which has come up in 2021, there is a prerequisite that every clinic should have a counselor, should have an andrologist available. But we have to understand also that this kind of counseling is not an easy counseling. You need people who are mature enough to deal with the circumstances, because so many times it happens. I'll tell you one example. Like, supposing if there is a problem with the lady, and if somebody point blank says, oh, there's a problem with her and she'll not be able to have children, you have already instigated the process of divorce. Now, this is not how we have to deal with it. So counselors also have to be very, very sensitive to what can happen later on if we have not done a proper counseling. And that's something which is very important. And that's where a whole subset of people, human resource is required, which should be developed. And I think they are in the pipeline. In fact, when I was the president of our Indian Society of Assisted Reproduction, we started a program called Samarth, where we are empowering women and nurses on all kinds of counseling and how to deal with patients, because you need soft skills much more to deal with this. And I mean, I'm leading in one of the groups in the world where on respectful care, and this is again part and parcel of the respectful care which we should be definitely looking into. So we can't really start blaming that, okay, the problem is with her, and because at the moment you do that, you don't know what the repercussions are going to be on the poor man or on the poor lady.
True.
So counseling is a huge area, and at every step, right from history to the treatment to the outcomes and how to manage, at every step these couples need hand holding.
So,
and even the families.
Right. So infertility ke liye, we don't have enough counselors. We don't have enough andrologists also. So would you use a sperm preparation machine to assist your practice? Are you using one?
Yeah, because ours is an IVF clinic, so we have all the equipments, for doing IVF and sperm preparation and everything. So we are using it all the time for many years now.
Great. So, ma'am, would you recommend a home insemination kit to your patients?
I would say yes, and sometimes no, because what we have to understand is that the available today, there are many couples, I would say, who do not have time. Both of them are working. They don't have time to come to the clinic all the time, for all kinds of investigations, ultrasound scans, and then time. So we do it all the time, that the ovulation kit is something which we use all the time. And now, as far as the insemination kit is concerned, I definitely would tell them. I don't know how, because see, there's a difference between a metro and a tier 2. Even sometimes explaining to them the injections also is very difficult, whether you have to give a subcutaneous injection or an intramuscular injection. So whether they do an insemination right or no? Because there's a subset of couples, let's say, where marriage has not been consummated, there's a pressure, or it cannot consummate, there's a pressure to have a baby. Okay, they can easily do self insemination and be good with it. But there are other couples also who might require a sperm wash and then an IUI or something, and those are the ones which will require some technical support from the team, which is important. But the third important aspect is that this home kit, if it is available, I would suggest it should be available on prescription. I don't know how it is available, but that's a word of caution, because there can be a lot of potential misuse, especially because now the ART bill is very strong, and the donor inseminations, which normally happen in the clinics, have a lot of regulations in place. So this should not be misused, but it's a beautiful, beautiful device, I would say, which we use all the time for people who require it. But I always am a bit scared on its availability of the counter, which is something I would say that yes, it should be on prescription, and we use it all the time.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. This has been very insightful. And it's because of heroes like yourself who are willing to come and speak about infertility for a social cause that will slowly break the stigma of what infertility is in India. So with us today was Dr. Jaideep Malhotra, who is the Director of Rainbow IVF Agra. And she's also a driving force behind having health insurance as health insurance for infertility. And she also has created iMumz, which is on Google Play. And she's also been a huge part of Samrat. So may God bless you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Subhag Health Tech wishes you the best. God bless you, ma'am.